Good morning. For those of you that know, we had some ice and snow this week in the Midwest, and so we've been without power for about 5 days. Finally got it back yesterday, but I thought this was a good time to kind of cover what we did with all the snow, the solar panels being covered, the things that I learned from this and would like to pass along, maybe help somebody out. So I have a 7,500 watt auto start Generac, and it has a 8 circuit panel. And so what I've done is I have put in breakers going to the 3 inverters. There's one unused breaker, and then I have a breaker that goes to a plug below the panel just in case I need just lights from the generator. And of course I've got my main grid tie panel. Which, if you notice, for the most part, everything is off in this panel. There are 3 breakers that feed the grid tie side of the inverters. 1 breaker feeds the Generac, and 1 feeds the electric hot water heater, which is the only real thing I haven't converted over to be on solar. Then I have my solar load panel. So with this solar load panel, it has all of my lights, plugs, the dishwasher, the microwave, washer, dryer, well pump, everything is in this panel. And it is fed from 3 XP 6000s. All 3 of those come into a combiner breaker box, which has an individual breaker for the inverters coming back to that load panel. And then I encased all of my wiring in wire trough to make it easy to run stuff back and forth. So the thing I learned with the auto start Generac is that it has voltage sensing. The voltage sensing is actually located within the generator itself. And so when the grid fails out, it says, hey, there's low voltage, I need to start. I start, and it starts to feed. The XP6000s have the ability to have a generator out, but it won't fire the auto start on this panel. So the generator would sit there and run 24/7, and then the XP6000s would charge the batteries, and they would run off of the generator even if there was solar available. And so that wasn't really the most economical or the smartest thing to do. So I started doing some thinking, and what I came up with was this little box I built myself. Not an electrician, not an electrical engineer, so take what I say for what it's worth. But there is high voltage in this little panel, but I'm going to open it up, kind of give you a peek inside. So inside I have a 110 double pole, double throw breaker. This has got a 110 coil, and I've got a double pole, double throw with a 12 volt coil. And so what I did is coming into the 12, well, let's start with the high voltage side. So there's actually, it's got a 110 coil, but it's actually got 220 running into it. So I took the voltage feeds within the Generac panel that normally go out to the generator, and I came around from them and into here. I came out of here back over to those voltage feeds going to the generator so that it makes a loop. So under normal circumstances, when the power is on, you'll see there's a red LED. That's how the electricity flows. It comes from the main panel through the wire trough into this panel, feeds the voltage sensing wires. The voltage sensing wires now come over to this relay, and then they come back over and out to the generator. So if the grid power fails, this relay will switch over to the other side. When it switches over to the other side, it's going to take its feed from this relay. So this relay has a 12-volt coil, and under normal circumstances, that coil is triggered by the XP6000s. So when they don't have a battery need, it's not on. I took a voltage feed from the 6000 XP panel, brought it in and put it here. And then there is a open side of that relay. So what happens? The grid fails. The Generac under normal circumstances would start and say, I need to run the generator. Well, now it comes in here and it senses that I'm still getting voltage from the inverters. And so it doesn't start. And then the inverters, as the batteries come down, whether it's because of lack of solar or extreme usage, whatever, but as the battery voltages drop to the set point, then they say, oh, I need to start the generator. When they do, they trip this relay, which turns off the high voltage feed, the load feed coming out in here. And so it fools the auto starter into thinking, now there's absolutely no power. And so it starts up, it transfers over. As soon as it transfers over, then the XP6000s take care of managing the load from within the software in the inverter. Now I know that EG4 recommends that you have the same amount of generator power as you do wattage for feeds. One of the reasons I have 18,000 watts is for peak, and I run my shop off of it as well. And so in the case where my shop isn't on during the day, and if I was without power, I wouldn't run my shop. So when sizing my generator, the thing I looked at was this. If I bought a 20 plus kW generator and it was running at 50% load, it's going to burn somewhere around 3 to 4 gallons of propane an hour. And current price of propane is right at $2 a gallon, so we're at $6 or $8 an hour just to run that generator at 50% load. It only goes up if you increase the load. So by going with a 7,500 kilowatt generator, 50% load on that, around that 3,700 watts, is about 8.87 of a gallon. And I use that to recharge my batteries. So I let the inverters, which have the ability to supplement the generator with battery power for those peaks, I let them do their job. And so I will bring in about 25 amps of power out of the 30 that the generator is capable of producing, and I will feed it into the system. It will use it where it's needed, but it'll also put it back into the battery charge, into charging the batteries. Once the batteries get full up to their set point, which I think I've got set at like 53.5 volts or so, it says, hey, my batteries are full, I can run off of battery, and it triggers the relay to shut off. When it does that, it actually lets the generator think that it's receiving power, because when it triggers that relay, it turns on the power from the solar side, and so the generator will go into its cool down cycle and shut off and wait for the next event to happen. The other nice side effect is, from across the room, you can see the red light is on, and if the red light is on, I have grid power for backup. And if the I don't have a demand on the batteries right now, so I'm gonna shut some of my batteries down, see if I can't create a demand. And I'm going to shut my main grid power off and pretend like there is a power failure. And instantly it switches over and says, oh, I need to charge my batteries. The green LED comes on. I don't know if you can hear that. The generator just fired up. The generator is going to run for about 30 seconds. And then this automatic transfer switch will switch over. It likes to warm itself up. And there we go, we just switched over, and now the generator is feeding into the inverters. I can hear it pull down. If I come over here and I look at this between PV and generator, looks like I'm bringing in around 7,000 watts. And current battery is about 54.7. So one of two things will happen. It will run long enough to charge the batteries up to that 55.3, which I'm not going to sit here and make you watch. When it does get to that set point, it will shut off and the generator will fire down, or the power gets restored. And if the power gets restored, I'm going to restore the power. You can see I'm still calling for both up. The inverter realized, hey, I've got real power back, so it shut off. It says I don't need the generator. The generator will stabilize and make sure it has voltage, switches back. I don't know if you heard that click, but it switches back. And now the generator will run about a 30-second cool down cycle, and then it will shut off and be prepared for the next time. So by doing this, not only have I maximize the efficiency of the system, cutting the propane use, I'm going to extend the life of the generator, I'm going to extend the life of the equipment, and I'm going to extend the ability to be sustainable with the propane I have on hand. I have a 500-gallon tank. They'll fill it to 80% full, which means I have 400 gallons. If you do the easy math and say, okay, I burn a gallon per hour, that's 400 hours of continuous use. So, 4 days is 100 hours, that's 16 days. And there the generator fired off. And I'm going to close this panel up because like I said, it does have both 12 volts and 240 volts in this. But the red light signifies that the main power is back on, and it's nice because you can see it from across the room. The red, the green, or both, or none. If by some chance the batteries were full when we lost power, and the inverter sensed it didn't need to start the generator, you would have no lights because you'd be running off battery and solar panels and PV. So it also, it makes it nice because that way the PV is going to do its job and use as much solar as you can before you require the generator to kick in. So I will try to put together, I'm going to try to put together a little schematic drawing here, which I'll include a link to maybe if I got to figure out how to do that. But basically it's a double pole, double throw breaker with a 110 coil, and a double pole, double throw with a 12 volt coil, because this one's triggered off of grid power, this one's triggered off of inverter. And so thank you, and I hope this helps somebody else out. I think that so after our 4 days without power, we did have one other day that we lost power, and it functioned flawlessly. The expense to this was literally about $40. So was able to buy everything off Amazon, the box, the relays. So all right, well, stay safe, keep warm, stay on the bright side of the sun.